Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of, as it says right here, the Hockey Edmonton show. I am not YouTube Trev. YouTube Trev will usually be in doing this show with Jeremy, but he's on vacation this week. So it's funny, I'm very busy, but I'm actually really excited to do the show because I am a hockey parent with two kids in Hockey Edmonton right now. Check it out, www.playhockeyedmonton.ca. Jeremy Haluschak's with us. How did episode 1 go? It looked pretty good.
Yeah, it definitely went pretty good. I think overall, the folks here, Trevor did a good job, calming the nerves down. I think as we'd mentioned off air that, coming in to something new, you're nervous and you want to make sure it works. And we want to give, you folks a product that, enhances this radio station, this programming here. So I think, the comments were positive and it looked like some people watched it. So we're happy about that. And just a good way to start the season, and we're ready to go here. Full speed ahead.
I told you, I was very impressed with the numbers on the and it just goes to show, there's a lot of hockey parents who are following Edmonton Sports Talk and have a chance to learn more about what Hockey Edmonton has on the go. So we're going to get into that a little bit today. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe to the podcast as well. Just search the Hockey Edmonton show on all your podcasting platforms. Sub to that, maybe a little bit more convenient for you. You can listen to it to and from the way to work, or maybe you're sitting at the rink watching your kid. You can listen to it there as well, but we do appreciate the support on YouTube as well. Feel free to leave comments on YouTube. I know Trev and Jeremy can discuss those as we work our way through the hockey season. But it's funny. This is the perfect one for me today because we're going to talk about tryouts and how the teams are put together. We're going to talk about what you can expect from your organization. I'm a White Mud West family, and then we're going to talk about some of the stereotypes that I think you guys probably have to deal with quite a bit. So where do you want to start? Where do you want to start today? What should we do? We're going to start with this forming teams and evaluations and tryouts and things like that?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very topical where we are today is, like you said, our tryouts and team formations are starting. So, at our club levels, those tryouts have been going on here for a few weeks here. At the community programs, we've had some of our higher level teams starting to try out at the younger age groups, but we really are getting full speed ahead here probably in the next week with team formations for our community programs. Starting next week is usually when we're going to really start getting going here, our members. So
I got my Team Snap invite last night. So we're excited. I think we're on the ice this weekend for a practice as well. So take us through. It's funny because I came from a small town I lived right outside of Cranbrook. I played my hockey in Kimberley, BC, and we had an A team and a B team, and then two house league teams. And I guess maybe I was a kid and I didn't realize how we were all being evaluated. But as a parent, kind of really you're curious. You're curious about the purpose, why they do it. What's the main driver behind that?
Yeah, I think when we talk about tryouts and team formations, I think, unfortunately, tryouts sometimes get pulled down into the community stream. When I look at tryouts, I look at, at our club levels, you're trying out for a team because we have a finite amount of teams there. Traditionally, as those people that have been in the system know, we have usually a AAA program and a couple AA programs. Those are the finite. So yes, you are trying out for a team there, but at our community programs, as we've said, we've got a place for everybody here. We're not going to turn away people. So what their role is to really group kids of like skill together the best they can, and then we move them into our leagues to kind of worry about the competition side, and that's where we have the moving up and down for those that are in the system. They know it's the tiering stuff.
Yep.
So again, we have that flexibility. Our league does a good job here, the Edmonton Federation Hockey League, which is actually a separate entity, and we'll get them on here to talk about the league itself at some point. But they do a good job of trying to move teams up and down, and it's a learning process. So again, not perfect, but I think we're really starting to move into a positive direction. But at the end of the day, we want to take a group of kids and put them together as best as possible. There's not really a silver bullet answer that's like, wow, this is something that people don't know. That's the goal. And I think, as we look around, you're looking at two different components of it. We want to evaluate the skills, and then we want to see how they translate that into the game. And when we talk about tryouts, it also goes with your ages. So at the early ages, we're looking at just the skills, and not so much are you checking these boxes, but again, where are you with your skills? You know, we don't. Can you do crossovers perfectly at the young age? No.
No.
All of our associations and all of the evaluators realize, yeah, our goal is just to see, hey, these kids can stop, start, turn, pass the puck, shoot it. Okay, these guys here or these folks here, we can group them together. Okay, these ones maybe not so much, have some challenges in their skills. Their skills aren't right there yet, but hey, we're going to move them there. And then as we get into the older age groups, you know, we're now looking at games. You know, if you look at, we talk about the Hockey Canada development model and the pyramid of development. Early on, we're focusing on those individual skills, passing, skating, shooting, and then you gradually go into team tactics as you get older, because if you can't do the individual skills, you're not going to succeed at the team tactics. So again, that's why as we get older, kind of look at more of how do you translate those skills into the game. We're going to look at, you know, the skills at the beginning. Okay, here's where we think these people are. Okay, then we're going to put them into a game situation and again see where they are. At the elite levels, so at our club systems, yeah, we're going to look at the skills again to see, okay, do these people have the minimum skills that will be successful at that level? And then how are you translating that into the game? Because again, that focus is a lot on the competitive side of the game, and that's where those team tactics come into play.
Yeah, you know, it's the whole evaluation and the time skates and then into the scrimmages. It's been interesting for me. I guess I've gone through this 3 times now with my own kids, and we've had some different experiences because I remember the second year, Marshall, I guess it would have been, I can't even remember. I mean, it's crazy. Everybody cares about your kids so much, right? So I remember we were watching a couple years ago, and he did the time skate, was in a tier, and the game went, and I thought he was fine in it, and then we got an email that the second skate he was going to be down a group, and I was like, well, he seemed okay in the other group, like. So my wife and I are like, well, let's see how it goes. So he went down to the other group, and he lit it up. And then when the final grouping came out, he was back with that. And I was just like, you know what? They put him down in that group. He obviously, that wouldn't have been good for him that year, right? He was it was probably the greatest game he's ever played in his life. He was scoring, he's coming by. I'm like, he can't play in this tier. So they put him back up with the other group, and the process kind of showed that it worked, right? And then last year, he was second year U9, and they did the tiering, and Tammy and I were like, you know what? We think he probably could have been up a tier. But then probably about a month into the season, watching the games, I was like, you know what? This is exactly where he's supposed to be. Like, this is the best tier for him. The other tier he could have played in, he could have played up that level, but he would have been at the bottom end, and he probably would have been overwhelmed. So I do think, I know there's always discussion about the tiering process on this, and that's going to happen in any sport. But I do think at the beginning, I was very doubtful of it. I'm honest, but I do think it works. I do think it works very well.
Yeah, definitely. And you hit something that I want to talk, as we close out this topic in a few minutes here about it. Hockey is a marathon. And again, one of the things that you need to realize in tryouts is we're asking our evaluators or whoever's in charge of that to group kids together in a very quick time. And the process is not going to be perfect.
It's super quick. You're right.
And anybody that's been through the processes will realize, hey, there are a group of kids that are way up here. There are a group of kids way down here. The issues is how do we separate and group this group of kids together? And I've been through it so often that, you're looking at these kids and you're looking at scores, and it's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, that 3.5 to 3.4 is not, it's a coin flip. It's just a coin flip. It could be any number of factors. It might have been, when he was doing his skating and doing a crossover, he had a tough time with one of the drills, and that just happened to be the time one of the evaluators looked up, and all of a sudden, okay, well, I don't think this evaluator doesn't think his skill was right there for that session, right? So again, I think we need to realize that evaluations aren't perfect. And we are trying to group together a lot of kids that are very similar in skill. And so, again, what can we do and what do our associations do? I think number one is all of our associations are really upfront about the process ahead of time. What are you looking at? What are we looking at? What does that process look like? What are the skates looking like? Whether that is, okay, we have a mix of skill versus gameplay, or it's strictly all based off a skill because of the age group, or it's all based off of gameplay because of the age group. That's one of the first things. A lot of times they're going to show what is the practice ahead of time. So that way, at least kids have a good understanding here of what to expect. So I think when we talk about this, and I'll touch on this a little bit later on in our conversation about tryouts, we want to try to make the kids' minds at ease. These kids put a lot of pressure on themselves. They want to make the team. They also don't want to disappoint their parents. That is something that I think sometimes gets forgotten here. I want to make this high-level team, but I also don't want to disappoint my parents, right? So again, we want to make sure that we're putting it out there. What are the practice plans going to look like? And again, evolution is taking shape here in terms of the practice, as well as saying exactly what you're going to be looking for in these drills. So we want to see this, and this in this drill. This is what we're looking for. So again, I think that's what a good process does. And again, regardless of how good the process is, it won't be perfect, unfortunately. Nothing
is, man. Nothing is.
Exactly.
Nothing's perfect, including hockey evaluations.
Exactly. And you can bring in, we can bring in all the independent evaluators we want in that. But a lot of our associations already have systems in place to prevent that. The common one is you're going to have multiple scores, and they're going to enter those scores in by somebody who had not seen the players at all. They average them out in some cases. Or not average them out, I should say. They take the best and the worst and remove those two scores. And okay, here's the middle parts of their score. So again, there's a lot of things that go into each association's evaluations that ensure that we try to get it right as much as possible. And like you said, when you look at the end of the year, and that's the focus, hockey is 6 months. The end of the year, did we get it right? Most times, significantly most times, we're confident that our associations did get it right. Yeah. And then at the elite levels, again, we have processes in place for them to, if your child feels that they are, that they should be playing AAA hockey, there are opportunities for them in the second tryout processes. So again, there are those things that are in place to help provide the best opportunities for your kid to play at the level they want.
I know on the notes here, it says we're going to talk about managing the emotions, and I think that probably is for kids, parents, probably it's an emotional time at this time of year, especially if you've had like your kid who like wants to play at a higher level and has been working hard all summer. And you're going to get some of those kids, and you're getting other kids who played soccer in the summer and are just kind of getting back into the rink and might still be disappointed because they thought they'd be up. So how do you do that? How do you manage the emotions of this stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely a emotional time, that's for sure. And I took this article here from the Ontario Minor Hockey Association. They had a really good article about things to remember during your tryout time frame. And I think the first one from the parent side is stay relaxed and positive. The body language and the tone that you bring to the rink will influence your child. So again, we talk about wanting to make this as a relaxing opportunity as possible. As I said, the kids are putting enough pressure on themselves to make that high team. Again, as we said, the kids don't want to disappoint their parents. So that's another added pressure there. So again, making sure that we are bringing that positive environment there, not putting too much pressure on them for the success. Be another thing we talk about in a couple of seconds here. One of the things we talk about hockey, and you hear the parents all the time, we want to make sure that they are, we're teaching our kids responsibility and such. Same time though, during this time, help them prepare for it. Whether that is lending a helping hand in terms of helping them pack, don't do it all for them, but help make sure that, they're packed, they're ready to, at the older levels, even preparing that pregame meal for them. I know a lot of parents at the older levels, the kids cook for themselves, make the meals for themselves and such. But that little gesture there, takes one thing off the kid's mind and really eases them into, I don't have to worry about this thing here. I've got support here. And again, it helps them get mentally ready. So again, lending that helping hand there really goes a long way for those kids. Keeping it in perspective, that's one of the things I think that we sometimes lose in all sport is let's keep it in perspective and what the purpose is. If they don't make the team they want, doesn't mean they can't play hockey, both figuratively and literally. There are opportunities for them to play hockey, and they are still good hockey players. So again, when we're trying to form teams, in the tryout process at our elite side of it, again, there's a finite amount of teams that we have here. At the community level, we're trying to group a group of players together. We have some, maximums that we can do for each of those teams. So again, let's keep that in perspective. Focus on the positives and the improvements that they've made, not only from last year to this year, but even their training over the summer to now. There's a lot of things that kids have done to improve themselves, and it shows that, you have the right work ethic, the right desire, understanding of what your weaknesses are. Those are things to be celebrated, and continue to focus on those because, again, that will encourage them to stay engaged in the game. Really, again, that goal-setting thing that we talk about that's great about sport. So again, keeping it in perspective. And I go back to, the positive attitude, because again, kids don't want to disappoint. Make sure that, at the end of the day, they know that they didn't disappoint their parents. Yeah. That's huge there, because again, they're going to feel disappointed. They might feel they disappointed their teammates. Again, how can you be a good teammate in those situations when you do have friends that are cut? Again, don't let them think that they disappointed you as a teammate. You guys are friends. You folks are friends. Chances are you're still going to hang around a lot and do things together a lot. You might play other sports together. Again, make sure that we are lifting each other up here. Couple of other things. I think this goes throughout the year. Don't compare yourself to other players or your child to other players, because again, not every player. Every player is different. Give attention to what they do well, and again, comparing your kid to others only hurts the experience of you watching them. If you're worried about, my little Johnny skates better than this little, Jimmy up in Tier 1, that's just going to take away from what you're there for, and that's to support your kids and enjoy this journey that they are in hockey. Again, going back to, this kind of ties back to a couple of things, it is bringing the right attitude. So encourage growth and learning as much as possible. And when you're talking about the things that they may not have done well, it's okay to talk about those, but make sure we're doing it in a positive and constructive environment. Not that, you really screwed up here. No. Okay, run this through me, what you saw in that play, right? Those type of things. Again, your actions as a parent have a great impact on how your child will view sports and how fun it can be. Again, we go back to that body language, tone. They see you being stressed at the rink and worrying about them and, always focusing on them and such, then they're going to feel that. So again, let's give these kids the best opportunity to showcase their skills. Because I think one of the things that we go back to in the team tryout and formation process, we're not looking for perfection here if you're a evaluator. We know players are not going to be perfect. In the NHL, look at how many passes are actually made correctly. Very small. So these are pro players that are having challenges making passes consistently. We're having these expectations that a kid's supposed to pass perfect every time at U9, U11, U13, U15, U18. Really?
Yeah, it's unrealistic.
Come on, folks. So again, So the other thing, finally, these tryouts, we talk about what hockey does is provides those teachable moments. And that goes both ways, if you made the team or not. So again, how are you going to approach not being successful in making a team is as important. How are you going to approach it if you are successful in making that team? Are you going to showboat that you're on this team? Are you going to think that, yeah, I made it and that's it? I don't have to do the work after. You hear it at the draft. How many times you hear it? We got drafted to this point. This is when the real work starts.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. All leagues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what age it is. You've made this team. That's great. But at the end of the day, work still has to happen. And especially at our elite programs where it is a focus on development, yes, but when gameplay comes down to it, if you're a kid that is not working hard, coach is going to have a hard time putting you on the ice. You know, at our community programs, you know, we stress that, yes, we want fair ice time for everybody. And if you want to develop, if you're not putting in the right attitude, it's going to be hard for you to continue at that high level as you go through your hockey journey. And then again, one thing, know what the next steps are. So during the tryout process, you know, especially when you're looking at those finite teams and that focus of being at that top level team, know what the next steps are and have those realistic expectations. Is there a chance that you might not make this team? How are you going to feel about that? You know, and such. Have those conversations. Again, never fear failure, but also have that conversation about being, you know, what could happen, right? So again, you know, I'm a goaltender, so I've seen it because a goaltender, you only have those two positions, and there might be 5 people that are very good goaltenders. In fact, I remember years and years and years ago when I was working around goalie school, White Mud West had a blessing of goaltenders, so much so that the next year, so for their Pee Wee Tier 1 team, they had, this overabundance of goaltenders. Those goaltenders that all went to Bantam AA the next year formed most of the goalies for each of the other associations, so CAC, Southside, and KC.
So they were that stacked. Yeah.
Exactly. So those parents, and they're all friends because we all trained together. We trained them in that, so they're all friends in that. All the parents had them prepared to say, that there's a possibility. You might not be playing Tier 1. You might be playing Tier 2.
Yeah.
So again, and always remember that there are always opportunities to continue to develop. If you don't make this what you want this year, that doesn't mean that, again, you're not a good hockey player. That there aren't opportunities for you. I'll go into a couple of things in my final thoughts here after we go through another little bit of an article that I wanted to share here. But you'll see stories of successful NHLers that did not make certain teams. So again, hockey is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah. I do think sometimes the tiering is more important to parents than it is to kids. Like I told Marshall, we found out what team he was going to be on. And I said, well, you have the same coach as last year. And he's like, yes. And I said, and your goalie is James, who was your goalie last year. Yes. And I said, your other buddy, Will, from baseball is on the team. He's like, oh. And then I said, but you don't know any of the other kids. He goes, that's okay. I was just saying, and he doesn't even, he wasn't like, what tier am I? What tier am I? You know, it's funny how, it's funny what is important to the parents or the kids or certain kids. Like I know some kids are different. Like everybody's unique in their own sort of situation, right? And that's why I think minor hockey coaches are phenomenal, because you got to be able to deal with not just all the kids in their own unique ways, but all the parents in their unique ways too. So,
and that's for sure. And that's topical for next week's
program,
good. Because we are it's National Coaches Week next week.
Oh,
so
perfect.
We were going to have coaches on to talk about, you know, why they love the game and giving back to the game. So again, very topical.
I assistant coach, and I think my favorite part of it is, especially at this age, I'm just getting out. So I did like I've done it since they were 4. Marshall's 9. And the kids are just hilarious to me. Like that's my favorite part of it. And I will say, and I don't know if this is a rarity, but I've done 5 years now, I guess, of it. And I have not had one parent issue in 5 years. I know there's like a lot of, we'll get to some of the stereotypes and stuff, but it's been really good. It's been a really good experience so far for me. So
for sure.
It's been a lot of fun. Are we going to talk associations? Do you want to go there? Or?
A couple more things here. So I think as we talk about the trial process, now here's the other side of it, the unsuccessful. What can you do there? And help ease that burden? Because again, we are going to have some disappointed kids at this
It
time.
always
just
is like that,
happens.
yeah.
So, and this can be regardless of any sport. So I took this from the Sport Information Resource Center. Again, the best of information out there is from this organization. So again, we talk about prepping your kids, have that pre-tryout chat, talk about their expectations and prep them again, what happens if they're unsuccessful. Biggest thing I think is console first. Emotions are high after those 24 hours. They're feeling disappointed. The parents feel that disappointment because again,
you don't want to get into that right away, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
So let them be there to console them before having the conversation of what you think happened there. And then again, you start to talk about it, gently ask those questions and get their thoughts and in an open discussion. And from there, okay, let's figure out, rationalize it a little bit. At the high level, when we're looking at our elite programs, usually those final cuts, the coaches will talk to them and say, this is what we're looking for here. And this is kind of why you didn't make it.
Some information on it.
Exactly. So again, take that information and really put it back into perspective. Okay, I see that. This is what, I can understand what they're saying there. Again, take this as a positive. Hockey is a marathon, not a sprint. Recognize those accomplishments made throughout your process, throughout the years. You talk about when Marshall probably could not barely skate when you put those stood on there and it was a little walking. Okay, I'm betting now he can skate. And again, I get that's a longer term, but if he had that in a short term, celebrate those successes and say, yeah, look at how far you've come. It is a learning experience, and this helps him grow as an athlete and a person. And again, like we said, there are great opportunities. There are still opportunities for you to play at high levels or wherever you want to play. So again, this is not the end of your journey. And again, moving forward, setting those new goals there, whether that is, okay, I heard that I wasn't good on the forward check. Coach said I didn't recognize the play fast enough. All right, well, how do you do that at the, in your AA team, let's just say, right? So, and then finally, as we talk about some final thoughts, again, you've heard me say it multiple times now, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So when I was at Hockey Alberta, I got to help out with their Team Alberta program. So again, the Pee Wee prospects are now U13 prospects, as well as the Alberta Cup. And we would, have tryouts. And what I would do when I'd come into the dressing room, again, I wasn't the coach, I was there representing Hockey Alberta. And I would always say that, this is a marathon, not a sprint. There are people that are going to be here that are going to be disappointed, but put it into perspective. Colton Parayko played U18 AA. That still got him the Alberta Junior Hockey League. I don't know if
Fort
you were
Mac.
there.
I was gone already, but I knew the coach still.
Yeah.
When Parayko came up, he's like, "You go see this Parayko kid."
So got him to the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Got him his education paid for, and he's got a Stanley Cup ring.
Yeah.
I think that turned out well for him. The under 16 program for Hockey Alberta takes the best defenseman in the province to competition. The best defenseman in the NHL, arguably one of the top two, did not make that team, Cale Makar.
Yeah.
I think that
it's not the end of the world.
I think he's done well for himself. And, the World Junior team, some of the best goaltenders ever, Martin Brodeur, Patrick Waugh, never played on that team. I think it turned out for them well.
Yeah.
And likewise, just because you made it there today doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. Again, I laugh at the World Junior goaltenders. If you were a goaltender for Canada for a long time, it was almost like the death sentence.
There's a lot of guys who it didn't work out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you think these are the two top goaltenders in the country or three top goalies in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to be in the NHL, no problem. Nope. They don't. And you can sit there and see that in those high-level teams. Again, we talk about the pyramid all the way up. So using the World Juniors as that example, there have been the Gretzkys, Crosbys, and McDavids. Yeah, they're the generational. There have been good players recently, like the Taylor Halls, the Jordan Eberles, have a very good NHL career. But there are those guys that make the NHL, play a couple years, and then go over to Europe, so they made it. But again, when you think of the top players in your country, you think that they would have a longer career path.
Yeah.
And then there are those that don't even make it at the NHL level. Again, they are in the AHL, play pro in Europe. Again, they made a living out of it, which is great. But again, they're not they didn't make it right to that top of the top, right? So again, let's put that in perspective that, again, just because you're there doesn't mean you're going to stay there. And you can see that throughout your hockey career as well. And again, finally, the process really doesn't define you as a player or a person. Again, we have to put teams together in a short time frame. Again, that doesn't define you as a hockey player.
It's nothing personal against you.
Exactly.
No, it just
and you
isn't.
will still
right?
be a good hockey player. You will still have fun. You'll still enjoy it, and you'll still develop.
He's Jeremy Haluschak, Executive Director of Hockey Edmonton. I'm Dustin Nielson from Edmonton Sports Talk, hockey parent myself. That's a little bit about the tryouts and how the teams are formed. Now let's talk a little bit about what to expect from your association. I didn't wear my White Mud West hoodie today, but obviously I have some ties where we live on the West End and I've been involved with it, and it's been a great experience for me so far. Their office actually isn't far from our office here, so it's kind of convenient as well. But, we talk about the coaches, talk about the kids, parents, but what type of roles do the associations play in all of this?
Yeah, for sure. So our associations, in a nutshell, they're the ones that are responsible for putting these teams together, be it our clubs or, again, White Mud West. So CAC, White Mud West, those are their roles. They're responsible for selecting the coaches and just managing that whole team dynamic overall. So they're going to set the expectations and, how to manage those. And so I think the biggest thing that our associations are responsible for is ensuring that positive environment. So how do they do that? Number one, we ensure, our associations, all of us ensure that this environment is safe for our participants. The team officials have been screened properly. We utilize the 10-step screening process. And so again,
I just had to redo my police check like 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
Very simple process, actually, but it's done.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we're ensuring that the right people are put in place to make sure that, your kids are in a safe environment. Each team official has completed Respect in Sport Activity Leader. Now, I remember I was at Hockey Alberta when this launched and when we made it mandatory for the parents as well as the coaches. And one of the things that, we talk about and people have asked, and more so from the parent side, well, does this change behaviors? Does it? We hope that for those, 0.5% people that are, the negative people in our game, that it would, some percentage of them would be like, okay, yeah, I understand this. But more so what it does is set that expectation for behavior. So on the activity leader side, again, the old speak out, we talked about this last week, this sets the expectation for that coach and player relationship. So again, hopefully it puts everybody on the same understanding of what is expected as you as a coach. If something does happen, those coaches can be held accountable because they understand what is expected of them. So that's what our activity leader program really does. And finally, it makes sure on the safe side, it makes sure that any concerns are managed appropriately. And we'll go into that a little bit later on here in the segment here. But again, making sure that if concerns arise, whether that be at just behavioral issues or bigger picture, smaller picture issues, they are managed. From a development side, we're going to ensure that positive environment through proper development. So each head coach has the appropriate training, and most cases in Edmonton, we are proud that our assistant coaches do have that same level of training. So I know you talked about this years ago when you were back on the station on the radio. You went through the coach clinic for the intro to hockey. So again, that's one of those courses. Hockey Alberta has changed some of them, and Hockey Canada as well has changed kind of some of those courses. We will have Hockey Alberta talking about them here kind of ideally later in October to talk about the coach clinics and such. So I won't go into a lot of detail there. But again, our coaches have the appropriate training. They have to have that to be a part of a team. So again, that's the first thing. It focuses on the appropriate development for that age group. And again, making sure that, those kids are being taught in an appropriate manner skill-wise. So again, the development is set on appropriate age and skill. So again, we look at this playing surfaces side. One of the things we talk about our Timbits program in December, we're going to bring a video that I think a lot of people have seen, but I think it's good to show it again. The perspective of kids and adults playing on a full-size rink. So
Okay, yeah.
It's a good video to see. So again, we're ensuring that they are playing on the size that will get them what's most important, touches and reps. The skills are taught. Again, we talk about at the younger ages, those foundational skills, skating, shooting, passing. Those are the foundational skills of the game. If you can't have that, then you can't do the team tactics. It's funny, my buddy was coaching U11 Tier 1 years ago, and he was my assistant coach years ago at this age level as well. And so he took over the team because unfortunately the coach left for, reasons, unrealistic expectations, we'll say. And so he's working on a lot of the foundational skills. The drills are focused passing, skating, right? And one of the parents at a parent meeting after raised concerns that, well, we're not spending any time on, breakouts. My parents' response was, or my buddy's response was, I've got 3 kids that can legitimately pass. How are we supposed to work on breakouts when 14 players cannot pass the puck appropriately?
It's impossible.
There's no point in doing a breakout. So that's what we focus on, the appropriate skills. And then the practice to game ratios. Again, we look at the community level, those are going to be those 2 to 3 practices to 1, or practice/development opportunities to 1 game type of ratio. At the older groups, when you're looking at the community levels, then it goes down to maybe a 1-to-1 because, again, U18, those kids are there, they want to play still, but they have a lot of other things on there, be it school, be it girlfriend, boyfriend.
Jobs, someone have jobs,
exactly, all of those things. So again, our community programs have a good variety of those practice to game ratios. And again, when we talk about the proper development at the younger levels, again, they're getting that appropriate development. At our elite streams, you are looking to those 3 to 4 development to game ratios because, again, our goal is to develop those elite athletes, for that next level. And finally, going back to the coach clinics, our development paths are focused on long-term athlete development. So the long-term athlete development model, and I talked about this a little bit last week about our programs, our coach clinics, they are taken from the Coaching Association of Canada, and Hockey Canada then implements it in a hockey environment. So again, these are the national standards for sport across the country. So it doesn't matter if you're basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer. These are the same the development opportunities and development pathways to ensure that our athletes are developing an appropriate skills. And again, we're not developing hockey players only. We're developing people to be healthy people long-term and staying in the games that they love long-term. They're not getting burnt out. They're not getting injured. So again, those are some of the association roles on how they make a safe and positive environment. When we talk about the processes, so kind of showing what their role is. Process-wise, well, first and foremost, I think we encourage all parents to be part of your association in terms of don't be afraid to learn about your organization and ask questions to them. And we encourage that to be respectful dialogue. None of our associations are going to have a problem having a respectful dialogue and conversation. They're excited to share what they do. We're excited to share what our associations do. So again, be part of the association and that community. We talk about how hockey builds a community. It's not just the players. You're just learning it. You're going to have friends long after your kids are done.
The only ones I really have time for are the other hockey parents, really.
Exactly. They're going to become your friends as well. So again, be part of that community, ask questions, and have those conversations. If you do have concerns during the year, there's a couple of different ways to do it. We want our association to manage them as best as possible within their realm. So they're going to have a process for dealing with a concern. Typically, those concerns about, your ice time, coaches providing feedback, the team direction, sometimes they could be minor behavioral issues, those type of things, those will be handled at the team level first. You'll find out about this at your parent meeting, how the coach wants to do it. Like for me, when I coached, I took this from one of my mentors. You know what? Come to me. If you have a question, come and let's talk about it. Obviously, be respectful. If you come at me in the hallways right after a game, yelling and screaming, yeah, you're right. It ain't going to go pretty. And, unfortunately for you and your child, the consequences will be there, right? Escalate it up to the association to manage. But if it's something that's emotional and you wait 24 hours, come at it like, hey, yeah, I don't get why my kid didn't see ice time. All right, let's have those conversations here. Other associations may have it that, you go to the team manager first and then it comes down to the coach. Again, each of those teams are going to have that internal dynamic.
Okay.
However the coach wants to manage that. If you don't have it dealt with or you don't feel it's been dealt with at the team level, then that's where you move it up to the association.
Okay.
And again, they're gonna have those processes. Ask the questions. So most of our associations put that on their website. Some of them, again, just because we're asking a lot from our volunteers to juggle putting teams together, managing a organization and such. Sometimes their websites may not be as up to date as possible. But again, ask them. They will have those documents because that is an expectation from Hockey Edmonton. And that actually came down from when I was at Hockey Alberta. We set a standard expectation, now it's almost 10 years ago, of how behaviors and how to manage what we called conduct-related concerns. So again, those are there, and Hockey Edmonton had been one of the pioneers on this. There's some good people there that did a lot of work to make sure that our associations are in a place to be able to manage those concerns. If your concerns are significant, they haven't been resolved at the team level, after you've talked to your association, you can complete the Hockey Edmonton's Respect the Game form. So you go on to playhockeyedmonton.ca, there's a big Contact Us button. You click that, scroll down a little bit, you will see how to manage concerns. That'll be where you can find the Respect the Game.
Yeah, right there. So very easy. Yeah,
exactly.
You can't. I'm just looking at the website right now. Big Contact Us button. You can certainly find it. It's not a problem.
Yeah, for sure. Now we talk about, again, 99.9% of the people are good in this game and in all sports. Unfortunately, when those bad things happen, and we're proud to say that they don't happen in Alberta, they don't happen that often. Now, we also now have mechanisms to make sure that if something does happen, that it is dealt with appropriately. So again, if your issue is about, protection, legal issues, on the Hockey Edmonton website, there is a link to the independent third party. And we'll talk about this. We're going to have Hockey Alberta here in November.
Okay.
First week in November, because 11 Maltreatment Day is a day they honor in terms of educating people, and it's 11.4 is the rule, so November 4th.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
We're going to have
this is by far the most well-planned show on the station. I'll tell you that right now. A lot of us are flying by the seat of our pants. You got things laid out every single week throughout the entire hockey season. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I wouldn't toot the horn too much here. There are some.
It might just be the rest of us aren't that planned.
I'm like, looking here, I'm like, ooh, I got some stuff that I got to fill in. So but we will talk about that. But again, independent third party. I'll talk about it as well in this combating stereotypes here in the next section. But that is a organization that is independent of all sport. They are hired professionals, experts in those issues. They are the first point to determine, okay, is this a issue that we're going to manage, or can this be managed through the specific sports system through their policies? So again, if you have concerns, our associations and Hockey Edmonton and the sport as a whole have ways we can manage those concerns, and you can bring those concerns forth.
Lots of ways to go about it then.
Yeah, exactly. So again, hopefully, want to focus on the positives. Our associations are dedicated to a safe and positive environment. And again, hopefully, that's what you get out of this experience. And we're confident that you will with the work that they do behind the scenes to ensure that.
It's the Hockey Edmonton Show. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also subscribe to the podcast. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can obviously watch on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up. It'll push this out to people who have, are looking for similar content to yourself. And leave any comments that you have in the comment section below. We can try to address some of those. Usually it'll be YouTube Trevin. He's on vacation. They did the first episode together last week. I have a chance to slide in here with Jeremy Haluschak, Executive Director of Hockey Edmonton today. And I'm really, this is going to be a good conversation because we're going to take a look at, and I don't know if it's just the different stereotypes about how much, it costs too much. Oh, it's too much time. Is it safe enough? My kid doesn't feel included. I think a lot of those can be with, you can kind of commit however much time you really want in any sport, right? So if you are overcommitted, I'm like looking at my own family once again. We'll have practice a week, game a week. The kids do power skating. Elizabeth does dance. They both swim. Marshall's going to try to play basketball too once. So it's like we put that on ourselves, right? And if you manage your time properly, it shouldn't be that much of an issue. But let's talk about some of these things that I guess you guys are probably fighting all the time, really.
Exactly. These are the common things that we hear. A few years ago, we even had a marketing group come out and help us develop marketing plans for the game and such. And yeah, these are some of the stereotypes that they heard. And we do hear it. These are not, again, rocket science things for people. These are the common things that are heard. Everybody talks about it. The time commitment, you're right. One of the issues that we have in both time commitment and cost is a lot of people focus on that elite of the elite. They think that, okay, I'm playing hockey. I have to commit 5 days to 6 days a week in hockey because that's what I hear the AAA parents are doing.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't happen at the community levels. Our community programs, if you want to play a couple days or if you want to have a couple days a week at hockey, we have an option for you there. If you want to, again, go for the highest of the high, again, we have that option there for you at our club levels. I think as well as we talk about, that development side of it, again, we don't want our younger kids on the ice all the time. We want them to be well-rounded athletes. That is the biggest thing. As we talked about with Trev last week, and again, it was brought up because it was fantasy football season, but you go back to the University of Miami. How did they get a national championship after being put on the death penalty? They gave out athletic scholarships. Santana Moss, one of, at the time, during his time, one of the top receivers in the league. He was a sprinter, right? We talk about long-term athlete development. That is what, if you're looking for the universities, the pros, Western Hockey League, AJ, they're looking for athletes first. They're not looking for hockey players. Athletes can pivot on the fly, essentially. They can figure things out and act accordingly. Whereas a hockey player, if you're focused on just hockey, you're looking at that one way to attack, the net. Versus an athlete who might, I can attack the net, and then when that puck bounces up, I've got the hand-eye coordination because I played baseball, bang, it's in. Right?
Yeah.
They can react.
It's a lot of good crossover. It really is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, time commitment. Obviously, our lead is more committed. Our community programs, again, have those options to meet your needs, be it 1 or 2 practices a week to a game a week, all the way to those one-to-ones. And then our recreational program, once a week, if you just want to play hockey, Hockey Edmonton has a recreational program that'll give you that opportunity just to play the game. And so again, we have a lot of options there.
Tons of different levels. So you can basically, what we're saying here is that you can commit whatever time you want to commit. If you want your kid to play at an elite level and you're going to want 5 ice times a week, you can get that. If you only want to pop in once, basically play shinny once a week, you can get that as well, right? So it really comes down to just making what decisions fit your life, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, going to the cost side of it, again, we hear the stories. Hockey costs this amount of money, thousands and thousands of dollars. Again, that's pulled down from the elite level down, thinking that that's how all community programs are run. It isn't. At the end of the day, we have studies that show, and not Hockey Edmonton doing these studies, but, provincial sports studies that show that realistically hockey per hour is on par with every other sport here. There's a give or take of a few dollars each way on the average overall. So again, per hour, hockey is on par for those sports. One of the things that we have, and maybe as we evolve and continue to evolve in how we deliver our game, is hockey is that 6 months. So that does make it seem like, it's more expensive than some sports that are 3 months.
Yeah.
Right. So, but when you look at it per hour, hockey is on par with what you get with other sports.
It's cheaper than swimming lessons, I'll tell you that.
Fair enough. And even if financial means are preventing you from getting the game, as we said last week, and we're going to have some of these groups on later on in December there, we have many partners that'll help you get into the game. Kids Sports, Sports Central, they want to see people in the game. That's what they do. Is
Great organizations, man. They just are.
And then on top of that, our associations, they will make sure that if you want to play, we'll find a way for you to play. And that is at the elite level down to the community level. We're going to find a place for you to play. Even our partners, again, we have a good relationship here with United Cycle. They're dedicated to providing the equipment at an affordable price. Again, we talk about the $400 sticks. Well, you don't need the $400 sticks. Stick is a stick is a stick. I remember years ago, after one of our games, coaching U13, I told the parents I want them to bring out their wood sticks because our kids were not passing, just not a good game. And I was really close to having those kids practice with wood sticks.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's the motion that counts, right? It's your techniques, right? So again, you don't need the $400 stick to play. You don't need the $1,000 skates to play. There are options.
You don't need all new stuff to play either.
Exactly.
Right.
There are other organizations or shops that do offer really good secondhand equipment. Again, there's benefits to it. You don't have to break them in. So again, if you're brand new to the game and those new skates put fear in you that, my feet are going to hurt. You hear that your feet are going to hurt after skating in new skates. Well, again, there's opportunities to go purchase used skates and get used to the skates and such. So again, there's a lot of opportunities out there that we work to make the cost.
Just make it doable.
Exactly. Yeah. Talk about safety. That's one of the things that's been paramount in our game, and a lot of contact sports. Hockey will always be a contact sport. When we say contact, it's people are bumping into each other.
Whether they mean to or not. It's a high-speed sport.
Exactly. And that's no different than soccer. Football, obviously, is natural. Basketball, they're all contact sports. Time you have team sports, it's going to be a contact sport more likely than not.
Nothing against volleyball.
No, fair enough. And again, so what are we doing? Number one, again, I talk about our coach program. Our coaches are taught the appropriate skills for the level that they're at. So again, at U11, you have to have our checking skills program. We don't do body checking in U11 or U13. So we're asking why do we make our coaches take that course that early? Well, actually, it's the whole progression of body checking. And that means that our coaches are learning that this is a progression. So you're starting with positioning and angling. That's the most important thing in contact sports is how you're positioning yourself. How do you angle your the players to get the puck back? Because that's the point of checking is we want to get the puck back. Then you're going into stick checks. And we're not talking the cross checks.
Yeah.
You're talking about how do we knock the puck off a player's stick properly. Then you're starting to go into contact confidence. So how do you gain that confidence to be able to bump into players, take those bumps, whether you're going in the same direction or not, whether it's intentional or not intentional. And then we get into the body checking side of it. So again, this is designed to be over many a year teachings. So that's one of the things. And again, all of our U11 head coaches have to have that. And again, we go back to reinforcing in that program, what is the point of body checking? It is not to go blow up your opponent. There's no magic score. You don't get an extra goal for a beautiful hit. No, it's to separate man from puck. And so again, we are in these courses ensuring that our head coaches are understanding the purpose. And again, that standard of what is expected when you're teaching these skills in the game. So that's one of the biggest things that we're talking about in safety. We're also obviously giving them different options. So years ago, Hockey Edmonton changed or offer two different programs. We have at the U15 level a body checking stream as well as a non-body checking stream.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And that goes to the U18 level as well, and Hockey Calgary does it, and all throughout Hockey Alberta we now have it. What's that done? That's kept more people in the game. Just talking each month, I have a conversation with my counterpart over at Hockey Calgary. He said, continuing to grow, and we're seeing it continue.
Really, it is. I was curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's that happened a few years ago. Back now, we are now 10 years ago from the removal of body checking in Pee-wee at the time.
Yeah.
So again, focusing on keeping the players safe at their most, I don't want to say vulnerable as a bad word, but that is the time when their brains are developing.
That would have been U13, right? Pee-wee's U13 now. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the science says this is a prime time for kids' development in terms of neurological stuff.
When bodies are starting to change and there's different sizes of like significantly different. I have a giant. He's got some, like he plays with kids who are come up to like his belly button. So it's tough to do at that age. Like it would be, yeah.
Exactly. So again, we knew that people were leaving the game at that level because of injuries. So Hockey Alberta, Hockey Canada took it upon themselves to make those rule changes, again, to align with what the science is saying. So again, we continuously have made the game safer, and we will continue to make that game safer. We have good relationships here with some of the folks down at the University of Alberta, Alberta Injury Prevention Institute, as well as the Sport Injury Prevention Institute down in Calgary.
Okay.
There. So again, as I get into this new role, that's kind of where I also want to focus in getting some of these, expertise in and to help us direct our decisions to make the game safer and to continue to make this game safer. Because again, we talk about the small percentage that go on to play in the Western Hockey League, the Alberta Junior Hockey League, college, and the NHL. We're here for the majority who want to have a long, enjoyable life in this sport. We talk about Hockey Alberta's mission of hockey for life. That's what we want to make sure is people are participating in hockey for life.
Yeah, the only way I'm going to view like a failure for my kids' careers is if they can't play rec league with me. You know, like I just want to play men's league with my son. I want to bring my daughter out to a Friday afternoon skate when she's 20. You know what I mean? Like I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's exactly what we want. Those memories, those long-term and enjoying the game as a whole, right? And that's exactly it. I have kids that I used to coach, so there's a few of them. So their dad, good friends with a lot of those parents. We talk about those lifelong connections there. He was one of my assistant coaches, and we coached together as well for a few years there. And yeah, him and his buddies rented out the ice. Well, now his kids are joining them, and their friends are all joining him.
Makes us feel old, to be honest with you, but it's still fun. I mean, that's what you want to do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the final one I think here is we talk about this inclusiveness in the game, and I think we're seeing there are a lot of partners here that are helping make this game more inclusive and people feel welcome. Hockey Edmonton has a place for you to play. We're going to make sure that you feel welcome in the game. So that is our.
You still having kids start at different ages? Like exactly. I'm curious about that. Like
we do, and you can start at any age. Just because you may not have played or started, at 9, 8, 7, 6, doesn't mean you can't play hockey. There are great adult programs here that they aren't part of Hockey Edmonton, but they teach adults how to play the game.
I used to play a rec league team that had like 4 or 5. That team started as they like learned to play and actually became pretty good players. They were, by the time I started playing with them, they were just like, man, we love hockey. We want to start playing it, Well,
that's exactly it. It's funny. We talked about, last week, me and Trevor, about partners and such, and kind of one of the stories of one of the people we're partnering up with here to do some artwork for us. And we'll probably bring her on, or at least have her artwork here to show off of what we're doing here. But her story is exactly that she did not play hockey. She started enjoying it as an adult, and that's where she started to play hockey.
Yeah.
So again,
one of my co-coaches last year didn't start. He's a goalie. Didn't start becoming a goalie till he was like late 20s.
Yep.
Yeah.
The most popular one, everybody in the game knows the story of Kelly Rudy. He did not play hockey until Pee-wee.
Yeah.
So again, we don't want to see us not get a Kelly Rudy, but we also don't want to see people not enjoying the game and going out to play the game and enjoying it with their families and their kids moving along down the line, right? So again, our programs, our coaches, we will ensure that our coaches, and I think I'm getting ahead of one of my notes here, but again, at the end of the day, our coaches are going to make sure that you're comfortable stepping on the ice the first time, and by the end of the year, you're going to be confident that you have the skills that you can continue to play hockey at any age you have. After the Oilers Stanley Cup run in 2006, we actually had a group of, they would be considered new Canadians. And two of them were skaters. One of them was a goaltender. And they came out to try out, and this is community, so U18 community. And me and my buddy Greg were like, ooh, this will be interesting. And within 3 years, they actually, two of the players played Tier 2 hockey, so they went from Tier 8 or whatever it was to Tier 2. The goaltender played Tier 3.
Yeah.
Like that is a success story in the game. So again, we're going to make sure that you feel comfortable in the game, no matter who you are. And I think, we talk about the positives and saying that, yes, we're here to make this game inclusive. We also have to talk about the whip side of it. So the carrot is we have a lot of organizations that are helping us get people into the game. The whip side of it is Hockey Alberta and Hockey Canada have taken a commitment to eliminating those unwanted behaviors. We talk about the Respect in Sport program that has been in place for a long time. That helps our associations manage those behaviors. Now, Dustin, you cannot sit there and say that I didn't know this was unacceptable. No, you actually took the course.
I went through the program. I'm not going to lie. A little bit of pain in the butt, but you do it, and it does. There are a few things that pop up along the way, and you're like, oh yeah, I understand this situation. I get it. I can see. As I go through all the different Respect in Sport, all those types of courses, I'm always like, 45 minutes. But then partway through it, I'm like, actually, I can see why this would be helpful to some people. Really?
Yeah, exactly. So again, that's the standard that allows our associations to manage that. Hockey Canada has introduced a new rule a couple of years ago, 11.4. So discrimination. So again, this is a serious rule. And again, Carlia is going to come on here and talk about that down the line. But we do have, not only for on ice, but off ice infractions can be called under this rule. And there are a process to manage those. And then again, the independent third party side of it. So again, if this is a significant issue, it is taken outside of the matter. So that's not even that doesn't stop at protection and rights issues and legal issues. If there is racism in the game, that is something that does fall under there. So again, we are working with trying to eliminate those unwanted behaviors in the game and those people that are contributing to that. So again, we talk about what we do in the coach. To be a coach, one of the comments that we do hear a lot, and I did hear it at Hockey Alberta, is, man, to be a coach, I have to do a lot of things. Well, okay, yes, we do ask you to do a lot because you are entrusted to provide a positive and safe experience for the kids, for minors. So we do ensure that, you go through screening and go through the coaching clinics and such as one of those tools to say, this is the expectation, and maybe weed out those that may not want to share the same values we have as a whole. And so again, like I said, the other thing is we actually look at it as a positive. Those coaches that have no experience at all, we're going to teach you how to be a good coach. And one of the things that I took away from one of my coach clinics years ago, one of the good coach facilitators here in Edmonton, he said, we ask you to do the same thing a teacher does, but we only give you a weekend to do it, where they get 4 years to do it. So again, and that's all coach clinics, right? Like no matter what sport it is, we ask the same things. And, excuse me. So again, we're asking a lot, but we're going to put you in a place to succeed. And on top of that, as part of, if you want to continue coaching, we do have that expectation of you continually to develop. So again, I go back to our positive and development experiences. That's another thing with our coaches. In their, I can't remember now the new Hockey Canada online system they use, but it used to be the locker. And so you'd have to get your credits throughout your years of coaching to maintain your certification for your different levels of coaching. If you were a high performance one or a development one, you had to maintain certain amount of coaching experience to maintain that certification. So again, we want to make sure that our coaches are evolving with the game itself. So I think those are some of the things that, we wanted to hit on in terms of combating those stereotypes. And
that's an ongoing discussion, right? It always will be. There'll always be new people that pop up with those that you'll have to kind of, explain, just like you did here. And that's why we're doing the Hockey Edmonton show, just to give you that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Give you a good feel of what's going on with a sport that's obviously very important to a lot of people. You can check out their website, www.playhockeyedmonton.ca. Next week, back with Trev. Go easy on that guy. I was telling you, he was very nervous, but I thought he did a really good job on the first episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This was awesome. Like, we were both in the same boat there. We're like, oh, man, sitting there like, what is going to happen here with this episode? Again, how do you make an episode fill number one time? That's the first thing. Again, that was my biggest concern as we go through this. And like we talked about probably a couple of weeks before, like how I want to make sure that I'm delivering something good for this organization and our organization as a whole that people find interesting. And so both of us were in that same boat.
It was great. So, I thought it went really well. I emailed you guys. I was out of town and I was leaving. I kind of emailed. I said, you guys are okay? It's going to be fine. And episode 1 was absolutely terrific. Hopefully you enjoyed this one as well. Trev will be back with Jeremy next week. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to leave some comments. You guys can start to dive into those as well. So,
for sure. Exactly. Yeah. So
what's the topic next week? Are we spoiling it or...
We're going to be talking National Coaches Week, so we're going to bring on our coaches here to have conversations there about coaching and such. It's not so much going to be delving into the theories and all of that, but again, focusing on that pillar that's the most important to our participant experience. It's the coaches.
Yeah, it really
that's
is.
the bottom line.
Like I told you, Marshall was like, hey, you got the same coach last year. He's like, Coach Scott. Like he's very fired up. Coach goes a long way, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, I think it's, this is a national initiative. So again, we're on board with that and showing appreciation for our coaches. And a couple other things. Just a reminder, folks, as you've heard, hopefully this is enticing you to play hockey. Our registrations are still open for our community programs. Again, like we said, if you're on the fence about playing hockey the first time, our coaches are going to make sure you're comfortable regardless of your skills. Yep. We're going to put you in a place to succeed. If you've been in the game and have left it and want to come back again, we welcome you back. Come on back to our community programs. We'll have a spot for you. We have our recreation program that is still accepting registration and our Learn to Play programs. Again, if you're brand new to the game, here's an opportunity to learn some basic skills. We run these 6-week programs, so once a week, you're an hour a week, you're learning some of the basic skills to put you into success for the following year. We run them in the fall, the winter, and the spring. So those are a couple things. And then you hit on there, I was going to say, if you have questions or any topics that you want to see on the future episodes, again, email them to us, office@hockeyedmonton.ca. In the subject line, just put Hockey Edmonton show question. That'll get forwarded to me, and we'll hopefully answer some of those questions. We might not answer them in the week that you do because, as Dustin said,
they might fit in with a different show. Yeah, exactly.
So there might be some fit in as we go down the line here. But again, like I said, we want this to be a little bit of an interactive show. Spoiler alert: this isn't live. So talk about in wrestling pulling back the curtain when they talked about the changing kayfabe and all that. So we're pulling back the curtain, saying this isn't a recorded show. But we still want it to be interactive and hopefully, again, make it something that everybody finds informative, regardless of where you want to play hockey, if you're playing hockey and what level you're playing hockey.
That'll do it for episode 2 of the Hockey Edmonton show. Check out their website, playhockeyedmonton.ca. For Jeremy Haluschak, the executive director, I'm Dustin Nielson, and YouTube Trev will be back with you next week.